Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm not sure how many participants we have, but we'll wait and we'll get started at 1 o'clock. All right, it's starting to fill up. All right, everybody. Welcome to the 1 o'clock session. We're going to go ahead and get started here. So if you're in the right place, this is setting and achieving strategic leadership goals. My name is Jamie Stalford. I am the business launch specialist at the Small Business and Technology Development Center at UNCW. Minority Enterprise Development Week is something that we as a whole, as a community, have been working on all year to really bring to fruition and bring to the community a little bit closer through entrepreneurship and through working together and really sort of fostering that community of innovation. So we're really excited to bring you guys these sessions. We're really excited to have you here. And we're glad to have such a nice group here, looking about in the 20s. So I am really just here to introduce our presenter today. And our presenters, we have Lynn Whitesell and Lori Harris from Harris Whitesell Consulting. I'll kind of let them give a little bit of an intro just to kind of tell you guys more about themselves and what they do and what we're going to talk about today. So you guys want to go ahead and tell us more about yourselves and what we're going to learn?
Lynn, go ahead and unmute yourself and share with the audience.
There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on setting and achieving strategic leadership goals. So happy to be with you here today. My name is Lynn Whitesell, and I'm co-founder and managing partner of Harris Whitesell Consulting. We are a global management consulting firm, and we're headquartered proudly here in Wilmington, North Carolina. My co-founder and managing partner, Lori Harris, is here with us today as well. And today I'll be your presenter. Yesterday she was your presenter. And today I'll be presenting on this topic. A little bit about Harris Whitesell Consulting very briefly. We really specialize in helping people and teams and leaders and organizations that are successful become even more successful. And we do that in a number of ways through organizational development, leadership development, team development, executive ed, education, also working with companies on their culture and their engagement and change initiatives and things like that. We really, really enjoy what we do. And so with that, Lori, you want to say anything about yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Lori Harris. I am Lynn's sidekick today. And I just want to say, enjoy her conversation, enjoy her presentation, write all your questions and insights and thoughts in the chat. We will make sure there's time at the end for you to engage with Lynn in regards to the content of this presentation. We look forward to it, and I look forward to it, and I look forward to you enjoying it. So thank you for attending today.
Thank you both. And like Lori said, we will be holding questions till the end of the presentation. But if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat as we move through the presentation. So that way we can kind of keep track of what questions are coming up, if there are similar themes coming up question-wise, and then we'll get to the questions at the end. So without further ado.
Okay, so hopefully I am sharing my screen at this point. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, Lori, a thumbs up, you can see my screen?
There we go. Now it's gone.
Okay, there we go. So again, I am Lynn Whitesell, and I'll be with you today for the next hour, and we're going to be exploring setting and achieving strategic leadership goals. So you're probably here today because you want to push your career or your company to a new level. And the question is, well, how do you go about doing that? So there's many different avenues and many different aspects of that to be concerned with. But today we're going to talk about setting and achieving those leadership goals. Because if you want to succeed, you must set goals. You have to define and work toward leadership goals. And you have to set the goals. Here's what goals do for you. Goals push you to do better. They give you focus. First and foremost, they give you focus. Goal setting allows you to take control of your company's direction or your own life's direction, because all kinds of goals, and we'll talk about that, and one of those are personal goals. And goals provide a benchmark for determining whether or not you are exceeding and succeeding and exceeding. And having goals is really urgently important to success, urgently important. And having well thought out, well planned goals, well, that's key to the success of goals altogether. Here's what leaders should know. And this is founded in a study that's 20 years old. And all the research, and we stay pretty current in research and have a lot of sources for research, let us know that there was nothing about this that's not true today. It's all true today. So leaders should know that setting specific, difficult goals lead to higher performance. Let's dissect that a little bit. Setting specific goals. We'll talk more about specific goals, but specific and singular, and each goal should be something unto itself, a very specific thing. Difficult means they have some stretch to it. It's not just easy to obtain, but they can be difficult to obtain. If you are a leader in a company, which I know many of you are, don't fall into the trap of just only setting goals that you know everybody can meet, because that's all you're going to get. You're only going to get what you expect, and that you're setting the expectation with goals. So setting those difficult goals helps your employees, helps teams achieve higher performance, which of course helps your team and your company achieve higher performance, and which really impacts business results. Whether your results are measured in profits or whether your results are measured in as a nonprofit, results are directly linked to setting specific difficult goals. So I wanted to unpack that one. High goals create greater effort than low goals, kind of along the same path. If you set a low expectation, you're going to get a low expectation. Within your company, for somebody to exceed expectations, they really should have done something extraordinary. because you want to have more than ordinary expectations to start with. So if you want to have ordinary expectations of everyone, and that's all you hope that they will achieve, and your company will only be ever ordinary, if you want to think about that. So how do you build an extraordinary company? Making a public, well, let's talk about this one. Tight deadlines lead to a more rapid work pace than loose deadlines. So if you set a goal for yourself, or a goal for your team, or a strategic goal for your company, if you're a business owner or a top level executive, and you set a very long time frame, strategic goals have longer time frames, but you're excessive in the amount of time that you allow for goal achievement, that time is going to be filled in. And so what is then the opportunity cost for what else could have been done? So set deadlines that are more tight, because work will be done and the goal will be met faster. Again, it's that Pygmalion complex. People will meet what you expect them to. Making a public commitment to a goal enhances your commitment. So if you have made a goal for yourself, for your team, talking about that as a team is very important if it's a team goal. If you have a leadership goal, a leadership behavior goal, sharing the leadership behavior goal that you have is going to be very important. If you are a business owner and you're setting goals for your company, whether they're strategic or whether they're supportive goals, you really have to share those out. So communication is key to commitment, and commitment is, of course, key to obtaining the goal and reaching that performance. And lastly, setting goals in a clear and compelling way and insist work together to achieve those goals. That's the best way to get results. So a clear and compelling way of setting them. And then here, as the leader or project leader or as a member of a team, really insisting that people work together. If you have people together in concert, working together, that's how you're going to best get results as a cohesive team. And we have a lot of work we can share around cohesive teams and measuring the cohesiveness of your team, but that's for another day. So that's what leaders should really, really know about goals. There are major categories of goals that include many things, including these three. Business goals. Business goals are things like increasing the profitability of your company, or improving your customer service, or reaching a certain retention of employees. What kind of retention do you want? What kind of efficiency are you looking for? What kind of growth are you looking for as a company? There are career goals that people have as well. And those could be goals such as increasing professional knowledge, or improving your work relationships, or getting new experiences, or honing your leadership skills, or building the cohesiveness of your team, or building the trust within your team, or those things related to career and career growth. So professional knowledge helps careers grow. New experience helps careers grow. And then you also have personal goals. All of us are multifaceted people. We're not all work, no play. We do have personal lives. All our personal lives differ, of course, and the goals that we would set for ourselves personally would differ. But maybe you have a family relationship that you really need to improve. Well, setting a goal around that will help you do it. Setting a goal much in the same way as you would set a work goal. Have you ever thought about setting personal goals? Maybe you're looking for financial stability. Maybe you're looking to increase your health and wellness. So those are the major goal categories. You can, if you're looking to build your career goals, and you're looking to hone leadership skills, and you're looking to increase professional knowledge, you can look at internal resources, and you can look externally as well. I'll go ahead and let you know that Harris Whitesell Consulting, if you go to our website and you go to harriswhitesellconsulting.com, that's our website. There are so many items in our blog. There are several complimentary, which means pro bono, which means no fee associated assessments that you can do, where you will get an immediate report. One of them is a leadership assessment, and then set up a half-hour time to get a pro bono coaching session from us. So we're really trying to give back now, as we were looking at what has happened with COVID, as all of us are It's how can we best support the people that we want to support, which is anyone who wants help and support. So look at our website, and hey, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, we pack that thing full of very helpful tips and tools as well. So just go there and look for that. But those are major goal categories. And these goal types, they may be very, very interdependent on each other. So if you have family issues that go unchecked, whatever those may be, a problem with your spouse, a problem with your finances at home, a problem with a child, whatever it is, trying to achieve that balance and having a home life. But if you have these family issues that go unchecked, that can really impact your ability to engage at work. If your mind is at home all the time, it can impact your ability to engage at work. Guess what? This works the other way as well. If you have a lot of work issues, if you have a lot of work problems, and those can cause you to become disengaged at home. So you don't want to be disengaged either place. So also personal development lags. So if you have personal development that's lagging because you're not focused on those personal development goals, and for whatever reason, we could unpack a lot of reasons, but you can not have the skills you need to be promotable. And that's very disappointing when you feel like, hey, this is a position, this is a new role that I'd like to have. But in actuality, you didn't have any goals set around personal development, and you don't have the skills necessary to be promotable or to be transferable into that new role. If you have subpar leadership behaviors because you're not focused on leadership behaviors at all as a leader, it can really impact or decrease the engagement of your teams. Think about leaders you've had that have been less than you wish they would have been. Not as powerful or as good or not as great a leader as you wish they would have been. What happened to your team? What happened to your personal engagement on that team or within that company? It lagged, I'm sure. And when you have unengagement or engagement that is not as high as it could be, when employees are engaged, when teams are engaged, they give discretionary effort. When they're not, they don't. And when you don't get that discretionary effort, when it's 5 o'clock and I'm out of here, or it's 5 o'clock and I'm logging off Zoom right now in our new work realities, and you don't get that discretionary effort, that definitely impacts profitability more than you would ever know. Again, if you want more information on the impact of engagement and profitability, just let us know, because we have lots of information available that we'll be happy to share with you on that. I know I'm going through this fairly rapidly. If you have any questions, anything else you'd like me to expand upon, if you want to go ahead and write any of that in the chat box, Lori's going to be looking at that for us, and I think Jamie as well. But we're going to hold that till the end and be happy to cover as many of those as we can. So don't be shy about writing whatever you want to in that chat box. So now we've talked about there's different types of goals. So we need to think about which goal do we pursue? You can't do everything, and that's a point I want to make. You have to be very specific with the types of goals and the number of goals that you're going to be pursuing, and we'll discuss that more. But you really want to start with strategy. As a leader, and let me just mention right here, leaders are not only people with management titles. Leaders can be found throughout a company. There are people who lead significantly through influence without an official title as a leader, and you're probably one of those people, or you may be somebody in a leadership role. But the role of leaders is twofold. It's to help drive that near-term performance. Right now, we're in the short term. Those are operational. And it's also ensuring that sustainability long-term to prepare for the future. So leaders have to be thinking of now and how what they're doing now is supporting the sustainability of the company for the future. And your goals have to reflect this. If you're in any kind of a leadership role, you got to remember twofold: now and future, operational and strategic. Here's some differences. If you wonder, is this goal, is it operational or is it strategic? Well, level one is your vision and mission of the company. What is the vision of your company and what is the mission of your company? That's the high level hierarchy. The second level hierarchy in all this are strategic goals. Those strategic goals are the goals that enable the vision and mission that you have. So if your vision and mission is to be the preeminent leading management consulting firm in North America by 2021, or actually it'd be, you know, most companies to be the preeminent in the world, it may be a several year thing, then your strategic goals would support that. They'd also be long-term, but it would be very strategic in the path that you would go to do that. And then your operational goals would support the strategic goals. So the operational goals are the tactical goals that support the strategic goals that support your vision as a company. Hopefully that makes sense. And so there is a hierarchy to it. So those operational goals allow achieving strategic goals by giving that workable execution plan. So how am I, it's nice, this is a strategic goal. My strategic goal, it may be to roll out coaching, executive coaching in all 50 states. Well, that's huge and long-term. So operationally, what are the sub-goals under that to do that? So strategic goal is aligned with the vision and mission. The operational goal is aligned with strategic goals. Strategic goals are around doing things differently. Strategic goals require change and innovation. Vision requires change and innovation. Operational goals are about doing things better. So doing things differently versus doing things better. Let's talk a little bit about the difference in improvement and innovation. A quick example I like to use is that the light bulb was not invented by the continuous improvement of the candle. You just got a better candle. It required innovation to get a light bulb. So if you just remember that quickly, because people get trapped in calling improvement and even significant improvement innovation. That's not innovation. And strategy is around innovation. Okay, so strategic goals are about doing the right things, those right things that support the vision and mission of the company. Operational goals are about doing things right. They're about quality and doing it right the first time and being efficient with how you do it because it is right the first time. Strategic goals are long-term, 2 to 4 years. Operational goals can even be monthly or quarterly or annual. So they're a shorter period of time. Strategic goals, they provide that true north. It's the compass of where are we headed. Operational goals, there's the steps towards reaching that true north. That's that execution plan that we talked about. Strategic goals are for sustainable advantages over the long term. They're the future of your company. Operational goals are about best practices now. They're about how to be profitable now. So now the profitability and then sustainable for the strategic. Strategic goals are typically the game of more top managers really setting the vision and the strategy. But oftentimes as well, they're shared out at several layers throughout the strategic goals. And then operational goals, they're really the game of the line managers, the front-facing managers who are doing the day-to-day managing of employees. So strategic goals versus operational goals. Since we did title this one, Setting and Achieving Your Strategic Leadership Goals, I wanted to make sure we really understood the difference. You need both of these. You have to have them both. If a leader really packs their calendar, what they're doing full of operational goals, it doesn't leave a lot of time for strategy. And that's how leaders sometimes fail in moving from manager to director to executive, is they're not letting go of the operational and picking up more of the strategic. Again, a topic that we could spend a lot of time on, but we won't. So you have to also avoid goal clutter. So there's all this many types of goals. So many of us have far, far, far too many goals at once. If you have more than 3 or 4 goals, real goals to achieve, you probably have too many. Think about that. Let it sink in. Think about your own company. Do you have a list of 10 goals? If you have a goal that says show up for work every day, that thing is not a goal. That's a place setting. That's what you have to be employed here. If you have a goal that lists out doing your job, that's not a goal. That's doing your job. So those are not goals. Goals are things on top of your ordinary everyday job. They're what your ordinary everyday job is supporting. What is the big, hairy, audacious goal you want to achieve that's going to help you step into your vision of success? Do you know what your vision of success is? Again, another topic, but think about that. You really need to when you start setting goals as well. And then you determine what are your biggest gaps or obstacles towards reaching that goal. And then what is most likely to cause you to fail or be less successful than you could have been. This is really helping you hone into what do your goals need to be. BOHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. What are you willing to spend your discretionary? Are you truly bought into the potential outcomes of reaching the goal that you've set? Here's an idea. What if you created a value statement for each goal that you set? What is the value of that goal? What is it? Ask yourself, how do you know? If I were to share this goal, if I were to share this goal with Gabby, what would I tell her to convince her that it was worthwhile? That'll help you when you're formulating your value statement. Only set goals that are so meaningful that you would allocate your precious time and valuable energy to them. This is where in coaching, when we're coaching with employees of all types, where they really get buried, and especially leaders get buried in far too many goals. It's far better to have fewer goals that really matter and achieve the heck out of them that really matter, difficult, that are stretched, that take you somewhere, than to have a list of 20 ordinary goals that are really just a list of your daily tasks. Your daily tasks are not goals. They're your job. That's what they are. So let's talk about setting SMART goals. And this might be a bit of a review for most of you, but I'm going to do it anyway because we forget about it. And by the way, SMART goals are, I know we're talking about setting strategic leadership goals, but you can't really talk about that because they're intertwined without talking about setting your personal goals and your career goals as well. So this holds to all kinds of goals, whatever kind of goal that you're setting, specific. Having specific, very precise and explicit goals, very much so, make it easier to get to where you want to go by defining precisely where you want to end up. Precisely. Another problem that people have is they make a goal and it's really 4 goals. It's not specific. It's way too broad. So very specific, very measurable. How are you gonna track your progress? It's very important that you track your progress. Just on a personal standpoint, it's really important to get that sense of accomplishment when you know that you've achieved it because you had set the measurable KPI, the key performance indicator. You had set that up front, so you knew what it looked like. Is it actionable? Is it based in action? If it's not based in action, it's not a SMART goal. Don't set it. If it's just passively waiting for something to happen, that's not an actionable goal. That's not a goal that you would set. So it has to be action-oriented and relevant. And aligning with company values, aligning with company strategy, and also aligning with your own values. If your own values, by the way, just as an aside, if your own values don't align with the values of the company you're working for, guess what? Get out. If your own values don't align with the company you're working for, it's not a fit for you. Get out. So relevant. And then time-based. It has to have a timeline and a reasonable timeline, but maybe a challenging timeline. There has to be some challenge when you're setting goals. So have that timeline, that deadline. And you'll notice in here, there was no use. We didn't put any words around achievable or realistic, which you'll often see people list when they say SMART goals, and they'll say achievable for the A and realistic for the R, and I disagree. You want to ask me why? I'll tell you why. It's giving yourself an out. We talked about the fact that difficult goals lead to higher performance. So if you're saying, hey, it's achievable, you're going to dumb the goal down. It's realistic, you're going to dumb the goal down. That has to be within the realm of possibility. It can't just be, I'm going to be an astronaut next year. I mean, it's totally not achievable unless I'm in my own cartoon and I'm, an astronaut. So it has to be in the realm of possibility. But your number one thing thinking about goals shouldn't be dumbing it down from the very beginning as to what's achievable. Did you think about your workforce that you're in now? How many of you worked for a company that was 100%, you had to be in the office, in the manufacturing facility, in wherever your workspace was, so you could be seen doing the work for leaders to know you were doing something, who with COVID have now switched to remote work? And they said it couldn't be done. And guess what? Companies had to innovate. Boom, they had to pivot. Boom, and those that have been successful have. And I think, and with some research behind it, this pivot we've seen that with the way workforces are now, is a lot of that is here to stay. There's going to be some hybrid that ends up being, but we can't put that genie back in the bottle. It's been proven to work. But what if we just said, can't happen, no way, it's not realistic, it's not achievable, I can't make a goal out of that. So those are the companies that did that didn't make it. And then if you really want to attain your goals, you need written targets. What gets measured gets done. Peter Drucker, guru in strategy and leadership. What gets measured gets done. You've probably heard it stated many different ways. Oh, so true. And you also have to measure progress against targets. If your goals don't have real concrete measures, don't write them. They have to have all components of the SMART. You can't leave one out. They have to be specific and measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-based. And if there's any one of those that you can't figure out how to set, then that's not a goal. You need to give that more thought. So measurement must be a key part of the goal strategy from the beginning. You have to determine what are the KPIs, what are the key indicators. And a good rule of thumb is to set 2 KPIs for each goal up front. Very precise. How much, how are you going to measure it, by when, exactly. And a lot of times you need to know your starting point before you can show improvement. This is another way to say you need a benchmark. How are you doing now? What kind of metrics do you have now? If your goal is to improve it by 7% or 10% or 50% or to do something different, how are you going to measure to know that you have if you don't know where you are now? So think about that as well when you're setting the KPIs, the performance indicators for your goals. Do you have a benchmark of now that you can compare against? If you're starting from scratch, then your benchmark is 0. But and that's sometimes the case. But oftentimes the case is building on that. You also need to make sure that as you determine what you want to measure and figure out how to measure it, that you're obtaining any necessary buy-in early in the process. So make sure you're getting the buy-in. Maybe you need to buy-in from your leader. Maybe you need buy-in from your team. Maybe wherever buy-in it is, as you're setting the goal, who needs to buy into the fact that that is a great goal for you to be striving for? So that's about measuring progress. And then it has to be made tangible. Many things, many goals that seem intangible and not measurable because you can't really get your hands on it kind of thing, can be turned into tangible goals. Let's say that a leader says, I want to communicate, or a team member says, I want to communicate better with my team. How do you make that something measurable? I'm going to hold one-on-one meetings with each team member bi-weekly. Do you see the difference in the goal? How are you going to measure communicate better with my team? How are you going to measure that? Can you measure I hold one-to-one meetings with each team member every other week? Sure, you can measure that. That's a measurable goal. So that's, just moving it from intangible to very tangible. Quality of life goals, and we all should have some of those, such as improved relationships. They can be more difficult, but they're not impossible to quantify. So you try relating the goal to a measurable unit. And lots of times that measurable unit, when you're talking family, it could be time. So unmeasurable, I'm going to improve family relationships. Measurable, quality time per day spent with child, spouse, whatever. So I'm going to spend at least, my husband's name is Mark, I'm going to spend at least 1 hour a day with Mark, no work going on. whatever your goal may be. That's much more tangible than I'm going to improve my family relationship. So how do you make these so they're truly, really measurable? It is possible. Okay, so it's the beginning of the year and we're setting goals. By the way, goals may need to be set at different times of the year, not just at the beginning. You need to, again, think about what has happened to us with COVID. I imagine that many goals for many companies and members of those companies have been reset. But how do you maintain the momentum? You ever lose momentum? You ever fizzle out? I wish I could see a show of hands. I think every one of us would say, yeah, some of these kind of fizzle out, and I get to the end and I realized I didn't maintain momentum. It may have been because you had too many. Maybe because you didn't really have a value statement around them. And so you weren't really ready to put in discretionary effort on that. There's a lot of reasons why we lose momentum. But as Amelia Earhart said, the most effective way to do it is to do it. I think Nike may have stolen this. I don't know, just do it. And so you just get started. You just do it. Not a lot of rumination around it. Then divide and conquer. So if you have a particularly complex goal or a particularly time-consuming goal, take that and break it into more manageable subsections. A big goal that is very complex, how are you going to measure that? You're going to have to break it down into sub-goals and operational goals to achieve it. Identifying those interim targets for your goal to keep moving in the right direction. Okay, so I need to get from here to here, but there's 4 steps in between. Set each of those 4 steps as a separate measure and then celebrate it when you get there. That's another part of maintaining momentum, is having those mini celebrations, M-I-N-I, along the way. So celebrating, not waiting to the very end. And then create powerful incentive with those small incremental wins, just like we were just talking about. Do you do that? Do you set annual goals and you really don't? How many? Okay, I know a lot of you probably do. Okay, part of our performance management system is we have goals. And yes, they're cascaded and they're aligned to strategic goals. And here's my operational goals, or here are my strategic goals. And I'm looking at them now. And then I'll pull this back out again in December when it's when it's time for my annual performance review and determine how well I did. Well, guess what? You're going to lose momentum. So if your company is set up in that way towards assessing and really managing performance, you're dooming yourself to leaving a lot of discretionary effort, engagement, and goal attainment on the table. So how do you do that? How do you keep that momentum? So you celebrate those small incremental wins. Goal achievement is an ongoing process. It's not a once and now I'm done type of process. It's incremental, it's ongoing all the time. Build in reminders to keep yourself on track. You can put those reminders right in your calendar, whether it's a written calendar or, as most of us use now, your electronic calendar. Build those in. Build those in when you're setting your goals to start with, and set that time back. And when setbacks occur, which guess what? Even with all the measures in place that you've done, even as thoughtful as you've been around in setting your goals, with all those measures in place, setbacks often and do occur. So what do you do when a setback occurs? You remain focused, but you may need to be more flexible. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan. You probably won't change the goal, with exceptions again, like a pandemic, when you may change the goal, but you're probably going to change, right? So as long as that goal remains relevant, which it usually does, you're going to stay with the goal. So your end destination may remain quite similar over the long term. You're still trying to achieve the same thing. The end destination remains the same. The action plan that you set for yourself may change significantly. And I think we're seeing a lot of that happening now, but that happens all along, in all kinds of times, even in normal times, this happens. So we have to be flexible. If the action plan you set for yourself, giving it the best thought and due diligence that you could, is not working, you don't just stick with that same action plan and be doomed to fail. You say, okay, what do I need to do differently? So goals need to be the goal plan needs to be updated as needed, not willy-nilly, not just because this is hard or because I didn't do it, I didn't focus on it, I didn't do it, so I'm going to change it. That's not what this is saying. It's saying stay on track. Stay motivated. Every win is a step toward momentum. And we usually reach those really big wins through a series of small wins. Can anybody think of any really big win that you had of any sort? Did anybody ever run a marathon by lacing on a pair of shoes and going out and running the marathon, having never trained for the marathon? Maybe somebody did somewhere. That little person wouldn't be me, that's for sure, or probably any of you. So that's an example to say, every time you go out and you reach a new mark as you're training for a marathon, as you get off the couch and run your first mile, as you run your first 5K, as you run your first 10K, as you run your first half marathon, all of those are steps towards momentum are to be celebrated along the way of achieving that marathon, highlighting those small wins as they come. And remember, if you did a good job of setting value statements, that's going to be very motivating for you. Remember we talked about value statements? So remember to use your motivating value statement that you set. If you start to doubt yourself or lose confidence in your ability to make the goal happen, go back and remind yourself why it's urgently important that it happens. Stay committed. You have to have that real sense of urgency. How do you stay focused and committed? After all, there are a lot of shiny objects out there to distract us. How do we stay committed to the goal? Well, it's having that sense of urgency and that I must do this attitude that relates again back to the value of the goal that you set. And then that momentum towards the achievement of the few important goals that relate only to the highest priorities. Remember, that's the only goals you're setting. You're not going to have 10 goals. You're going to have a few goals. And those are going to relate to the highest priorities, and you prioritize them. That's what keeps leaders and businesses successful over time and over long periods of time. So staying committed, but making sure your goals have real value, you have a sense of urgency around it, you have just a few, and that only relate to the highest priorities of what you as an individual employee must achieve for your team to achieve, what your team must achieve for your department to achieve, what your department has to achieve for your company to achieve, for the strategy to be achieved to reach the mission of the company and the vision. It all has to tie into each other. For leaders, it's really helpful to have a coach or a mentor, an accountability partner, an advisor to help keep you on track and accountable. Do you have one? You have one of either of this? So let's talk about the differences. A coach may be somebody like a member of Harris Whitesell Consulting, who's a qualified, certified, experienced coach, working with teams, working with leaders, working with executives to really do a lot of personal assessment, really finding out where you are, what your values are, how your values align with the company, what behaviors you have that are keeping you stuck and holding you back, assessing your own success, getting a 360 perspective. Those are the things that a coach helps you do. A mentor is somebody who has some experience to share with you or has some insights to share with you that could be helpful. Mentorships are not just people who are higher level in the organization than you. There may be somebody who has a skill set that is at a lower level than you, who has a skill set that you don't have, that can mentor you in that. So we often think mentor, oh, that's somebody very experienced at a higher level than me. Mentor is somebody who has a skill you don't have, that is willing to share that with you. Accountability partner, I have one of these. I think Lori has one of these. And an accountability partner is somebody that I have that's outside of my family, that's outside of my business, that's outside of any of that, who I trust, who trusts me back, who's a positive person, but that I can meet with on a regular basis, and I hold her accountable and she holds me accountable. And we each have 6 questions that we ask ourselves. You should do this on a daily basis, and you set the questions. And again, we can give you more information about that. But this accountability partner is one that might ask you, how are you doing with your 6 questions? How are you doing towards this goal? And really keeps your feet on the fire and doesn't let you make those excuses that it's so easy to make. So your accountability partner. And your coach can also be your accountability partner, and often is. But for leaders, it's really, really helpful to have a coach, mentor, accountability partner, an advisor, or somebody to help you stay accountable and on track. Let's talk about achieving goals. Our goals can only be reached through a written plan, basically. Once you have set good, clear, relevant, measurable, targeted goals, your action plan is now key. Here's Pablo Picasso. Our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other path to success. A goal, a plan without a goal is just a wish. A goal without a timeline and measures is just a wish. How do you make it something that's smart? So the goal without a plan is just a wish. So achieving goals. When you're thinking about how to achieve goals, here's a set of questions to ask yourself. Think about, close your eyes. What's the goal you're working on right now? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it. Okay, now, keep that in mind. Do you have the skills to achieve it? If not, how are you going to gain the skills? What information or knowledge do you need to achieve that goal? Do you have all the relevant knowledge, information? What help, assistance, or collaboration do you need to achieve that goal? What other resources do you need to achieve that goal? Think about this as a big one. What could stop you? What could block you? Think about that ahead of time. What are the blockers? What are the potential pitfalls? What are the blockers? Plan. How are you going to get around that? Don't let those surprise you. Are you making any assumptions? This is another big one. We make a ton of assumptions that end up not being based in reality and not coming true. Is there a better way to do it? Sometimes what can happen is a leader can get a goal in mind and a plan in mind, and they're so singularly focused on this is going to be my goal in the goal setting process that they don't give any other thought to any other way. And there may be a better way. So make sure as you're going through the goal setting process that you consider all options. And so here's an idea when you're talking about getting all options. It's really important that you get opinions, especially you're working with a team. Get everybody's opinions, everybody's ideas, and that you have a diverse team and a team that comes from a different backgrounds, and a team that has a different way of thinking, and a team that has a bunch of different personality traits. Big mistake we see leaders make is they hire people who look and think and act just like me. Well, if you do that, leader, then you only need you. You don't need a team. So a team needs to be very diverse in the way people think, and the knowledge and skill sets they have, in the background that they have, and the viewpoint that they're coming from, in order to get all the best ideas out on the table, and as a team discuss all of those really great ideas. And once you do that, people can really commit and buy into that goal, and that can be a goal that you set for the team or for the leader or for individuals on the team. But people really need to be heard. They don't need for their idea to be the one that's selected. They need to know that they were heard and their idea or their input was considered in the selection of the final goal. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you're thinking about achieving goals, these are some things you need to do. Ask yourself these questions. Leaders, delegation's key. Let's think about it. I'm gonna have you close your eyes again. I'm gonna set it up for you. You've got way too much to do. You're buried in work. And it just seems, well, there's no way out from under it all. How many of you, show of hands, how many of you that hit home? Yeah, probably a lot of you. There is a way out. That way out is delegation. You've heard about delegation. You know about delegation. You know it's important to do. You know in the long run it's going to save you time. You know in the long run it's going to help others develop new skills. So why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? I'm not going to go through all the reasons here, but if you want to go to our blog, we have a great article out there on delegation. And we unpack reasons people don't do it and then ideas and ways for people to do it better. Do you delegate well? Do you delegate enough? Do you delegate at all? If not, why not? Sometimes leaders don't delegate because they enjoy doing it themselves. Most often, leaders don't delegate because they don't trust somebody else will do it as good as they do. Sometimes leaders don't delegate because they feel like their teams are already too busy, so I'm just going to let them keep doing what they're doing, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. When you do that, by the way, nobody gets developed because people are only doing what they already know how to do. There's nothing developmental happening, including for you. Because if you don't delegate as a leader, you can't achieve anything extraordinary as far as setting extraordinary goals for yourself, because you're always going to be way too busy and buried. Do you have a coach who can help you unpack the reasons, help you understand the reasons that you're not delegating and help you get on track with delegating, or a party or a partner or a mentor or an advisor or somebody you can talk to about that? But to be a great leader and achieve goals, you have to learn how to delegate well. And it's not about you doing everything. In fact, it's just the opposite of that. You have to think creatively about how each task can be done. Start by doing what you do best. Delegate what can be delegated. And a lot more things can be delegated than you think can. Outsource it where it's needed. As you're delegating, it's important to remember you're not just delegating a task that you don't want to do. You delegate a task which you're not learning from anymore. It's routine for you. It's not developing you in any way. But if you gave this to Gabby, if you delegated this to Gabby, she would learn. But for Gabby to take on this, guess what? She's got a full plate. Boy, she's going to have to delegate something as well. And again, not just something she doesn't want to do, but something that John can do and learn from. This is how you build a development culture, by the way, and this is how you achieve goals. If you have an active development culture within your organization where delegation is not only possible, but it's expected, you will achieve and you will overachieve because you're continually building the skill sets, whether they're technical skills, whether they're behavioral skills, whatever they may be. Busy is not a good word. It's not a good excuse. Get it done. Delegate it. This is somebody from Kinko's here. Delegation is key. Again, we have a lot more resources on that available to you, but it's really, really key. I can't impress enough on you the importance of delegation to goal achievement. In this building of a development culture, engagement surveys, exit interviews, all of those. Lori and I will work with a lot of companies on building a development culture. My background before Harris Whitesell was I was an executive who headed up global talent management, who worked with companies on talent development and developing leaders and their cultures and engagement and running engagement surveys and that kind of thing. And I can tell you from experience and not just from research, employees say over and over and over again, I want development. If you don't offer development, if you don't have a development culture, they will not stay with you. Matter of fact, they're probably not going to, there's a lot of competition right now for employees. And if you want that employee, all things being equal, if you are known for having a development culture, you're going to get that employee, you're going to keep that employee. And if you have this great development culture that you're building. So to keep this in mind, you're going to end up somewhere. If you have goals, you're very clear on where you're going to end up. If you have well-written, smart goals. If not, where you end up, will it be where you or your company wanted or needed you to be? Probably not. Here's a couple of resources that we're going to provide you with. One is a planning worksheet. So it is important I succeed because that's your value statement. The impact on the business will be, that's another part of your value statement. What are the development activities? And then once you do this planning worksheet, we're giving you a SMART goal setting template. So this gives you the different components of setting goals. And then at the bottom is the space for you to actually write out the goal itself. So there's some tools that we're going to leave you with or send your way. With that, I'm going to stop the discussion here. There's some contact information. You can also contact Lori Harris at lori.harris at Harris Whitesell Consulting. Go to our website, call our office number. Any way that you want to get in touch with you're welcome to do so. So I know we were scheduled to go to a quarter after, so I want to make sure I leave a little bit of time for any questions that may have come in through the chat. So I'll open it up to that right now.
Wonderful. Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. If you would go ahead and unmute yourself, and also if you would activate your video. Many of you, it looks like, don't have your video activated either. So if you would open up yourselves to the dialogue and the conversation, we can go ahead and engage in that. Lots of wonderful presentations, Lynn. Everybody in the chat, you have the 2 documents that Lynn mentioned. We've also attached her articles that are in support of this presentation today that Lynn wrote for the Business Journal Insights. You have access to that. And then we've also included for you links to 2 of our complimentary assessments that Lynn mentioned earlier, and our LinkedIn pages, both for our company and individual pages for us as well as our website. So lots of really good information included in the chat box there. So for those of us that are left, before you head out, do any of you have any questions for Lynn in regards to goal setting?
Jamie does, got to unmute.
Yeah, go ahead, everybody, and unmute yourselves. Unless you have a dog that's barking.
Jamie, are you able to unmute yourself?
Okay, hang on one moment. I apologize. I thought I cleared it off. Here we go. Sorry, you guys. I'm going to go through and get everybody unmuted here.
Okay, so now you can, and I see Jamie has. So you had a question?
Yes. So thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. And I definitely got a lot out of that. A lot of people that I'm seeing in the working world post-COVID are experiencing burnout. Especially, you know, if you're stuck working from home for long periods of time, you haven't seen your coworkers in a long time. And burnout seems to be a common theme across industries. A lot of people I've talked to have been experiencing that regardless of industry. So what are some of the ways that if you have ways that you recommend sort of combating that burnout?
Okay, so I think because COVID is, and Lori, I'll let you, Lori has some cognitive ideas as well, I'm sure. But, you know, we're going through an unprecedented time, for sure. It's changed a lot for a lot of us. It's time now to look at your goals. Now, remember, if those goals are strategic and align with your vision, you don't just change the goal, but you may change the action plan. And you want to make sure you're statements really, really motivate you toward that. I'd say every single one of you could look at, first of all, if you don't have goals, set them. That is a motivator. Set them. It really, really motivates you. It's just like wearing a Fitbit, or, our watches these days and whatnot. If you're tracking your progress, it really is a motivator. You'd be surprised. I know when I first got a Fitbit years and years ago, I would stand at the sink brushing my teeth while moving my feet so I could get extra steps or whatever. So set goals. If you have goals set and now you need to achieve them in a different way, be sure that you go in and look at those goals and change your action plan. I also think you need to consider you need to have 3 different kinds of goals. And one of those kinds of goals is personal. So do you need to add personal goals? Because if you're out of balance with that, and that's what's happening with a lot of people right now, they're sick of being on Zoom, they're zoomed out, or they're not, not on Zoom, but they're picking up extra work. They're going about things in a different way. Things are just more difficult. Set personal goals for yourself. Lori would talk to you about meditation and how she's coaching people right now. That's not a typical thing in our coaching practice, but she's experienced with cognitive therapy. So Lori, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, so it's really important. What's exciting is those of you that are in attendance today, I know Gabby and the team over at MedWeek are going to be posting yesterday's presentation. And within that presentation yesterday, it was the effective and successful leader. We specifically talked about finding limiting beliefs and really digging in further and getting into those distortions that create burnout. And once you begin to do that self-assessment and that self-mastery, and you narrow that behavior down to what distortion am I projecting? Am I allowing the belief to drive my thoughts, my feelings, and my behaviors, my actions, my deeds? It's very, very critical. Great leaders spend energy and time to make sure that they're setting the proper intention. As Lynn is talking about today, in order to achieve those goals, there has to be that commitment. But prior to commitment, there absolutely has to be the intention that you're showing up each and every day with your whole self ready to go. And you can do that by truly digging in and narrowing down those key behaviors that are keeping you stuck, that are keeping you in burnout. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's your responsibility. No one else is to blame. And we have to own that. Once we begin that, we begin the self-correction process, and we become very much of high excellence, and we gain momentum and build momentum into high levels of achievement and succeeding. And ultimately, we begin to feel better. We have more moments of happiness, and we have that beginning feeling of fulfillment, reaching contentment. And it's realized if, in fact, you begin the process of self-assessment. So.
And probably, Jamie, a lot of what's happening and why people are feeling the burnout is it's related to resiliency. And in order to be in the resiliency zone, you have to have high stamina, and you have to be meeting goals. So if you have high stamina but you're not meeting goals, you automatically are out of the resiliency zone. That's just how it works. So it's taking the cognitive viewpoint and seeing what's keeping you stuck, taking a look at the goals that you have and say, we've had this major thing happen. Everything's turned upside down on its head. Do I need to look at goals, or do I need to write them in the first place? So combining those will really help a person avoid that burnout.
And in the chat, there are 2 assessments again that will begin to give you some of this data to begin that process. Great question, Jamie.
Thank you so much. All right, who else has questions?
Come on, hit us up. Can I ask everybody to come on camera, if you will? Because I want to do a show of hands. And I can't see your hands. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, look how many beautiful faces.
Yeah, look at that.
Love it.
So the first question I want to ask, because I wanted to ask it when we were going through the presentation, how many of you have the delegation delusion that we talked about? So busy, no way to overcome it. And that leads to burnout as well. And so looking at delegation and how we can delegate and what we can delegate, what we can take off our plates altogether, what we can do differently, what doesn't need to change. We're in this world where we think everything's changing. Well, there's a lot of things that aren't. And that gives us, that helps with burnout as well, is to really understand what's not changing and what is changing. How many of you would say, if you don't mind sharing, how many of you would say you're really doing a great job with setting and achieving strategic leadership? We work on it, so I have to, okay. Let me ask it another way. How many of you think there's room for improvement in the way you set and achieve your strategic leadership goals? So that's probably why you joined in this particular session today, and we're grateful that you did. If you're really on the beach, I want to be there with you. If it's a virtual background, love it.
All right. Any other questions before we wrap up?
I have a question. I'll jump in. It's not totally formed, but I just kind of want to get your input and feedback on, thinking of aiming really high, but understanding also, the place where you live, the limitations, and how not to let those limitations affect your goal setting. Looking at like, well, I know I want to get here, but that's really not, that opportunity is not available right now, or I can't move across the country. So maybe just some feedback on like, how do you do something in the interim, or maybe it's an incremental goal, or just kind of talk about how do I continue to set high level goals, but looking at kind of the reality of the situation and not limiting myself, not settling for something that I really don't want, but still moving toward my high level goals.
So I'll respond, and then Lori probably has a response as well. So first thing, Vanessa, is thank you for the question. I think it's one that many of us have on how to do that. One thing that you would want to do is self-check your limiting behaviors. Sometimes we really, and there's a session that I happen to be leading tomorrow on how women lead, is for women as they lead a little different than men. And it's trying to talk about some specific things that are specific to most women that are different than men, on how we get stuck in our beliefs of what is attainable and what is not. So you would want to really check your limiting beliefs and determine if you have any limiting beliefs. Okay, so maybe it's not a limiting belief, it's really a reality. I can't move across the country right now. So then it becomes, what can I do? What incremental step can I take? Maybe I can't move across country right now, but what skill sets do I need, would I need anyway if I was there or here, and how can I go about getting them now? What are the incremental steps? So that's the mini steps towards that larger goal. So for that larger goal of country, if it's not, if it's something that you can't do now, but you can do 4 years from now, or is it something you can't do now and can't do ever, and you truly can't. So it's also looking at that, and then building the steps towards reaching it.
And I'm helping Papa with
Lori, did you want to add anything toward that one?
No, I love your answer to that. And again, keep it realistic, and remember that the future always gives us that anxiety, and we only can accept that gift if we so choose to do that. And understand that if you cannot do it now, what you can do is you can move the date out for that goal. So you don't ever lose sight of it, but that you realistically manage that timeline. And remember that time is something also that creates a lot of anxiety with us. So I want you guys to flip the switch and I want you to start thinking of those 86,400 seconds in each and every day that you have, that you're managing your energy to your priorities within that time, which is very different mindset. That's a growth mindset. When you're focusing on managing your time, that's a fixed mindset. But if you're managing your energy into that time, it's more of a growth mindset. And again, your dates can be moved around as long as you say so, as long as that's acceptable to you if it's a personal goal. Now, if it's an organizational goal, you of course have to collaborate on that idea and that thought. But I truly want you guys to really manage your energy so that you don't jump into the anxiety pool. And
You
let
are in
it-
control. What it is feeling that sense of lack of control and like the world is happening to me and I am powerless in it. For the positives and what you can do and the control you do have. Because a lot of women, particularly, we give up control. It's like we're powerless, and we're not. We're powerful.
Great question, Vanessa. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And by the way, thank you to those of you that have already taken some of the assessments. We will be following up with you to set up your complimentary debrief as well. We'd love to walk you through that and give you further insights and further details. So thank you very much for those of you that have already taken advantage of that complimentary assessment.
Happy to answer any other questions.
Oh, Jamie, uh-oh. I thought I had gone through and gotten everybody undone, or at least asked you guys to go ahead. One moment. There we go. You should be.
There it is.
There you go.
Yep, I keep having the problem. Somebody is pressure washing outside my house. So I keep muting and unmuting and it keeps getting locked. Does anybody have any questions before we finish up? All right. Lynn, thank you so much for your presentation. I found it very valuable. I'm sure our attendees did too. And hopefully they can use some of the resources that you've provided and get some of the takeaways from your presentation and hopefully apply them to work and personal life. I do believe there is a survey if you guys would like to fill that out. If you guys want to get in contact with Lynn and Lori, I do believe their contact information is in the chat. Or I believe you can go to, is it harriswhitesellconsulting.com? Yes, harriswhitesellconsulting.com, and you should be able to get in touch with them that way as well. And please fill out the survey. We appreciate you guys all attending. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your med week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. We'll do your goal setting. Right?
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.